The word for you today is Saturday, June 17th. Hope you're having a good weekend. This lesson is about staying excited about your relationship. How do we do that? We get in a relationship and, if it's a friend, okay, you spend some time with your friend, then you're away from them. But what about if it's a marriage relationship? How do you stay excited about being married to that person that you've gotten so used to? The person that has smelly feet or bad breath? That person that's you saw all the wonderful things and now you've seen all the warts. You see the problems they have. How can we stay excited in our relationship? Well, our scripture passage comes out of Proverbs chapter 5, verse 19. And it's a passage of scripture that a lot of people are very uncomfortable. If you're asked to read this verse out loud, you may stop at a couple of places. Here's what it says. It says, a loving doe. And by the way, verse 18, the verse before this, talks about, this is a man talking about a man's wife, okay? It makes it very clear. It says, a loving doe, a graceful deer. May her breasts satisfy you always. May you ever be captivated by her love. God created us to be attracted to members of the opposite sex as a way of populating the earth, but even more than that, fulfillment in relationship. God gave us the wonderful gift of relationships. God gave us the wonderful gift of sex as a way of a fulfillment between two people. That's to be a bond that is not to be broken. The difference between sexual love in marriage and sensual love in adultery, the difference is absolutely incredible. In marriage is lifelong and it's satisfying. Lust is temporal, fleeting, and you know what? It's never satisfying. Oh, maybe for a few moments there, feels good, it is good, but when it's over, then it's over, and you ever eaten or drank something and it leaves a bitter aftertaste? That's what that does. There's a bitter aftertaste about that. When you think about a deer is graceful and a beautiful animal. You ever watch deer bound and they jump over a fence and they run? They're a beautiful animal to watch. Well, with this, what Solomon is telling us, that husbands should see their wives as this deer. So how can a married couple stay excited about their relationship? Well, first of all, realize that God made them male and female. Marriage and sex was God's idea. It's not something we created. It was God's idea. And it's all good. Second thing, pray together. A strong marriage is physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. Each of those parts. The mental part, talking about what you believe about this or that, or what you think about different things. Emotional, celebrating good times together, crying together through the difficult things. Physical, the embracing, the touching, the feeling. And then the spiritual, realizing that there is something way beyond us. And we both can share what God is doing in our lives. So realize that God made us male and female. Second is pray together. Third, guard your thoughts. Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23 says, above all else, guard your heart, because it is the wellspring of life. Guard your heart. In the Bible, when it talks about the heart, it's talking about that decision-making part of us. Guard that decision-making part of us. Because why? Because that's where our actions come from. It's where our thoughts come from, then our actions, and then basically our life. Fourth thing, honor and respect one another. That means to think more highly of your spouse than you do yourself or anybody else. Folks, if we should be treating the people we live with in our homes better than we treat anybody else. We should be treating our husbands and wives better than we treat anyone else. And if we're not, why not? Why not? That person that you committed your life to for the rest of your life, you need to honor them and respect them. You say, well, they don't deserve it. Okay, why not? Maybe you need to spend time with God, and maybe you need to see them as that graceful deer. Fifth thing, speak kindly to one another. So important. Proverbs 18:21 says, the tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. The tongue has the power of life and death. What does that mean? It means when we speak, sometimes we can speak things into being. Like what? You tell a child you're clumsy, you can't walk across the floor without tripping. Oftentimes that child will be clumsy. But on the other hand, if you encourage that child and you tell them you can do this, you can do that, you give them a confidence that they didn't know they had. Well, actually that they didn't have. But you help give it to them. That's life. The other was death. You know, another way is if you're constantly, guys, if you're constantly telling your wife that she needs to dress up, she needs to look prettier, you're gonna look at her and you're not gonna be satisfied. But if you tell her how beautiful she is, you look in her eyes, you look at her hair, you look at the things that she does, and you say, you know, you are so beautiful. What are you doing? You're speaking life to your wife. Wives, do you speak respectfully to your husbands and compliment him on what he does this or he does that? That's speaking life. Speaking death is saying, oh, do you go around looking like that all the time? Or, you know, please don't touch that, you'll mess it up. That's speaking death. You don't have to always say a positive thing. In other words, I'm not a good handy person. There are some things I can do, but generally speaking, if I work on it, it's going to require more work afterwards. My wife has always been very kind to not remind me of that. I know it. But she's very kind, she's very respectful in that she doesn't say, please don't touch that because you're going to destroy it. She says, wow, that looks kind of complicated. Should we call somebody? I'm grateful for that because yes, that's what I want to do, call somebody. That's speaking life. That's not speaking death. Speak kind to one another. And you know, when you're constantly speaking kindly to one another, it changes, believe it or not, it changes how you see that person. And 6, the priorities. So important. You put God first. God has to come first. Because if our relationship with God is right, our relationship with other people will be good. If our relationship with God is not good, our relationship with others aren't going to be good. So start off with a good relationship with God, then your spouse, then your kids, then your family, and then everybody else. And if we can keep those priorities in line, it makes all the difference in the world. So realize God made us, male and female. Pray together. Guard your thoughts. Honor and respect each other in your actions. And then 5th, speak kindly to each other and speak kindly to each other. Respect and honor one another in your actions, but also in the words that you speak. And then priorities. Put God first and your spouse next. There was a couple, they were having dinner together. And as they were talking, one of them said to the other, he said, you know, have you noticed anything different in our relationship in the last few years? One of them says, yeah, I have. It's gotten so much better. He said, yeah, well, why do you think that is? I'm kind of smiling at it, and the other one says, well, I think I know why. He says, why? He says, because I came and realized that you can't satisfy me. And the other spouse looks and says, that's right. That's right. And you can't satisfy me. When they came to the realization that my happiness is not the responsibility of my spouse. Wow. Then I quit blaming her for things. And I look where the source is. If we expect somebody else to provide our happiness, we are going to be miserable. Because another person can't make us happy. That's something that comes from inside us, and that comes from the Spirit of God. And when we allow God to be the one to give us the satisfaction and the fulfillment, then you know what? We are free to love one another. But if we're expecting them to solve all our problems and satisfy us, not going to happen. Not going to happen. It's amazing what we can live with if we don't expect them to satisfy us. And it's amazing how beautiful they can be. It's amazing how fun they can be. It's amazing how enjoyable they can be to be around when we're not expecting that other person to satisfy us. There's something much, much deeper, and that's a relationship. Have a good day.